Good morning, everyone. You're all welcome to our Career Guidance Day or Career Day. And it's a great pleasure to have each one of you. It's a special day, and I hope you're ready to learn, ready to discuss, ready to engage. We have a powerful panel of serious citizens who are here to share with us from their experience so that we can all learn together. But as is befitting for a Christian community like Vine, we will start with a word of prayer, and I'll ask Teacher Nora to lead us in an opening prayer as we begin.
Let's pray. Father, we just want to thank you so much for this morning. Thank you for today and the career day that you have organized for us. I pray that we will learn something new. Thank you for our panelists. Thank you for school that has organized this. I pray, Father, that even as we take on these next 2 hours, that we will learn something. We thank you and we glorify your name. In Jesus' name we've prayed. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Teacher Ivan. And welcome everyone. For those who have just joined, we are well into our career day. And really the purpose of this day is for us to just learn and hear from people who have gone ahead of us. And we'll shortly be getting to know our panelists. We have Mrs. Mbabazi Emejeit, we have Dr. Catherine Sebuguzi, Mr. Timothy Magara, Mr. Reuben Tumwebaze, and Mr. Stephen Ineget. I'll be telling you a bit more about them as they speak. But just a little guidance. We have only 2 hours, and yet there's a lot to share. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please let's make use of the chat. And I also request the panelists and the teachers, let's follow the chat. And if we can, we'll also use it to answer some of the questions and respond to the comments that will be coming up. It's not class, so let's be free. And I hope we will enjoy and get benefit out of this day. So without any further ado, I want to invite our first panelist, and that is Dr. Catherine Mayende Sebuguzi. She's a real doctor. You know, there are doctors who are doctors of religion or philosophy, but this one is a medical doctor. She's married to Pastor Godson Sebuguzi. They minister at God's Fortress Ministries in Komamboga. She's a mother of 4 children. She has practiced as a medical doctor for over 16 years, having started with the Infectious Diseases Research Institute, where she worked for over 12 years. She's currently based at the Ministry of Health, Malaria Control Division on secondment from the World Health Organization. So let's invite Dr. Catherine to take us through our first presentation. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you very much, and a very good morning to everybody. I'll just try to be really brief. So as mentioned, I am a public health medical doctor. So I work in the field of public health. I do malaria research, and I've done that for very many years. But I started at the table working on little children every single day. I had 601 children to care for and their families. And from then, I've grown in the field of research. I currently don't see children, unfortunately, but I oversee those who see children. And then my actual job right now is I take the information out of the research studies that have been conducted, and we develop policies that govern how medicine is done in Uganda, policies for malaria, for strategy, for COVID, and for other diseases. So I'm really taken away from the day-to-day work of a white coat, a stethoscope. For that, maybe I work on my children and a few relatives. So my current work, how I really took this career path, I started in school. I was interested in medicine by I would say by my father. My father was a doctor, an entomologist though. So entomologists work on insects. And having attended his graduation ceremony as an 8-year-old, I thought, okay, he's a doctor now. But when we went home and I saw him, I asked him, you don't work on anybody. Then I told him, I'm going to be a real doctor. I'm going to work on children. I'm going to work on people, not bugs. And that forged my journey. I started massaging his rib when he was sick. And I remember as early as 8 years old, I used to inject my doll. I had a doll, I got injections and I would give it injections. I was also captivated by sick people. I remember riding on the back of a pickup. Some of you don't have these experiences, but we used to live in a village and I was sick, I had to come to Mulago. And my mom put me on the back of a pickup. But on the back of that pickup, there was a kid with a very huge head, really huge. And later I learned that it was called hydrocephalus. So I wondered what's in that head? Why does that child have that head? Will this child heal? It really bothered me. And I also visited the HIV/AIDS ward at the age of 12, so many sick children. I was visiting a cousin who was dying. And those experiences moved with me into life. I go into Gayaza High School and we start work. Needless to say, there was this kind of idea that to do medicine, you have to be very bright. And most bright students, they'll tell you have to be a scientist. So that was in the background. But I found that when I would go to the library, I would also be interested by biology books. If I hear about HIV, I would go and read that. Now, in our days, we were not as, we didn't have the opportunities you have with all this career guidance, with all this information and knowledge. But as I reflected, I realized that was in the journey as I got here. So looking at challenges, so that shaped my decisions. Now, looking at challenges I faced in my career, I think the biggest challenge was workload. With a medical degree, there is a lot of work right from school. In school, we traditionally used to take biology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, and that's what I studied. But these days, things have changed. You may not have to do physics. You can do BCM, provided you have biology and some of these other sciences, you can get into a medical degree. But to overcome those challenges, and I've seen many of the questions around that, I used a lot of my spare time to read. I was a bookworm. If you ask me, would I do things differently if I went back? Yes, I would do things differently. I would balance more on the social side of life, but I was really, really, really a bookworm. So it takes a lot of reading. I would cut out useless time and use that to read and review my work. I also made friends with teachers. And I think that really, really helped me just right in secondary school, but also at the university level, I would make friends with teachers. And some of them are still my friends to date. I learned how to tag team. I was weak in physics and I was not a very good mathematician. But I was able to realize a certain girl who'd come from another school, she'd come in from Nagalama. Now, while all the other guys and girls were looking at her like, well, you've come from Nagalama, what do you have to offer? I quickly decided, what does she actually have to offer? So I approached this young lady and I told her, I'm great in biology, I'm excellent in chemistry, but I struggle in math and physics. Can you show me the other two? And I show you my two. And she agreed. And that's how we started our journey working with her. We would discuss. She teaches me what I don't know. I teach her what she doesn't know. And today she's a prominent obstetrician in Kampala and actually got married into our family. So for me, tag teams work. If I would find I'm weak in a certain area, I find who is strong in that area. Now in the area I was strong in, I would continuously discuss and teach people and it would become a second person. Now, I can't overemphasize the importance of teamwork, and it becomes more important as you go into the university. When we got to campus, we formed a discussion group, and that is the only way I survived campus. Now, this discussion group has to be carefully chosen. Fortunately, my group, I landed into a group of boys, and they were born again boys. Today we are still friends. We invest together, we work together. Our families have come together. We are 10 in total. We were 3 girls and there were 7 boys. But they carved out a timetable, they carved out topics, and you would have to research on it. You would come to teach it. And if you were weak, you would ask for help. And that is how we were able to navigate that complicated course of medicine. I just want to give a little guidance, and then I'll quickly look at a few of the questions. So for me, my guidance for a student is, one, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. I noted that through school, people who used to fear the Lord somehow made it. Even those who were weaker, because we're all at different levels. Some get straight A's, other B's, some stagger with C's. But when you fear the Lord and you put him first, you get there. Believe in yourself. Now, acquire skills. In acquiring skills, it may not necessarily be medical. It may be communicating skills, because in medicine, you're going to talk and talk and talk. Acquire skills. And there's that verse in the Bible, Proverbs 20-29, that says, do you see a man skilled in his work? They'll serve before kings. They will not serve below a low rank. So whatever skill is out there, get it. It may be computer. Right now, I use the computer a lot as a medical doctor, and I'm glad I was able to acquire that. Follow your heart. Deep inside, there's a feeling. And I think for me, it was those feelings of injecting dolls, of looking at the big heads of children. Follow that. Don't go bandwagon with everybody. Everybody may be going IT, even looking at medicine alone. Everybody may be going pediatrics, but you may be fascinated by the human heart. Follow that. Consider what comes easy for you. Be observant. Ask questions. Read. Follow trends, be inquisitive, get good mentors. And even when you feel you've messed up, don't fear to start over. Now, there are some questions that I received. I think I have 5 minutes left. I was inspired by caring for people. I'm currently doing public health. I had wanted to do pediatrics and obstetrics, but I had to look away from that because of the bulk of work in those. And given the fact that I'm now also a church minister, a wife, a mother. But looking at the fields, the Lord guides you. Along the way, you are exposed to all fields. I've seen a lot of urology here. I think someone wants to be a urologist. They'll expose you to neurology, urology, surgery. So along the way, that it kind of comes to you. It comes to you, and as you pray and as God guides you. I've said, believe in yourself, okay? Don't forget to believe in yourself. Even when you're weak, believe in yourself. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. My most memorable moment in medical school was the white coat. Let me tell you, putting on the white coat, you just feel good. You actually feel like a doctor already. The second best was graduation. When you're saying that oath, you're like, am I really, really a doctor today? And I can't take that away. Someone asked about my first experience working with a patient. I don't remember that, but I'll share my worst experience. My worst experience, I was very, very small, right up to just a few years ago. And I had to work on an old man. So being very small, I looked like a child. And I went to him and he had a urology problem. He couldn't pass urine. So it necessitated a private engagement with him. And I had to pass a catheter so that he can pass urine. And he told me, Madam, little child, no younger like you is going to work on me. But I was the only doctor on the ward. And I tried to convince him I'm a doctor. He refused. So the nurse told me, let him be. In the morning, you'll find him willing for you to perform the procedure. Needless to say, in the morning, he was crying because his bladder was really full. We later became friends. And he told me, Doctor, I now believe you're a doctor. Would it be good for a student who wants to be a doctor to go through pre-med school for children? I don't know whether there's a pre-medical school for children currently. I know that in certain countries, when you're finished with your year 13, you can go to pre-med school. But what I can say, read around. There's a lot of information on the internet. You can ask your parents, get in touch with another doctor, read and interest yourself. You'll find that you'll certainly, within your heart, God will guide you. How many years it takes to become a urologist? You'll study 5 years, do internship for 1, and then urology is another 4 years, but it is possible. And currently we do have great female urologists in the city, just to speak to the girls online. Do you spend your 4th fifth year in medical school? Yes. And these days things have changed. I think students are exposed to patients as early as second year. So from year 3, 4, 5, and even internship, you're in medical school, you're right in the hospital, and internship is heavy. You are the doctor. You are the one making decisions. You are working on patients. You're putting on lines. You're explaining to mothers. It is wonderful. Can you be an athlete and a urologist? I think you can be anything you want to be and a doctor. I am currently doing ministry. I'm a mother and I'm a doctor. So yes, you can. Internship is paid. It is paid, but it is not paid your worth. I would like to say that medicine is not an apprentice. It's an apprenticeship, and it's not something you go to for money. You go to for the heart. Now, when you have the heart, the money will follow you. Your patients will follow you. I'll remember when I was in a small clinic with those 601 patients, my days were really, really, really busy. And the nurses used to say, if Dr. Maitek is here today, we are going to work until the cows return, because the patients connect to you. And so they would go back to their community and they would ask each other, is Maitek on call? Yes, she's on call, and they would mobilize each other. So you go to medicine for the heart, and you'll find that even the work you do, you will not be paid the worth of that work. Your reward is going to be in heaven and in the fulfillment you get from seeing someone better. Forensic medicine, I've made research on this, but may you please explain with emphasis the subjects for forensic medicine? Forensic medicine is taught in medical school. We do it in 4th year. It's a very, very interesting topic. But I would advise people on call that children, when you're interested in a topic, go online and kind of see what's in that topic even now. But when you get to medical school, you'll be exposed to everything you've ever dreamed of, and then you'll be able to choose. There are doctors who are pharmacologists. Pharmacologists come from the discipline of pharmacy. Pharmacy and medicine are very related. And I'd like to say pharmacologists are the brightest of the bright. So when you come to medical school, you'll do 1-2 years together. And then in year 3, the pharmacists, they take a different turn. They start to study more of the medical things, of the drugs, less of touching patients. And that's where you can now pick up pharmacology. We do have pharmacologists around. What I enjoy most about my job, what I've enjoyed most about medicine is helping people. And I remember once in a taxi, I took a taxi from Mulago, and the man greeted me and he told me, do you remember me? And I said, I don't. He said, I paid your fare. And he reminded me that, doctor, I once came to the acute care unit with a child, and she was dying of a meningitis, and I had refused to have a spinal tap on her. And you insisted and told me that your child will be well. I remember she was called Angel, and the child got well. So he was explaining to people in the taxi how that had happened. Now that happens many times. As a doctor, it is the most fulfilling experience when someone tells you, you held my hand, you helped me. Most challenging about my job in medical school, in Mulago in particular, was losing patients, but also when patients were really broke and they couldn't afford medication, that would really tug at my heart. I think I'll leave it at that in the interest of time.
Thank you, Doctor. You've actually given us, you've set the pace, and thank you. We'll have a brief question and answer session after all the panelists have spoken. So if you still have questions or comments for Dr. Catherine, kindly put them in the chat, or you could even, if you want to, if you don't want it to be general, you can either sidebar her and she'll be able to respond to some of them after. And for the rest of us, I also want to remind you that, as you could hear from Dr. Catherine's presentation, these are principles of general application. A lot of what she has said is applicable to any profession, not just the medical field. So let's be open-minded, even as we receive this knowledge. Our next speaker is Mr. Reuben Tumwebaze. Mr. Reuben Tumwebaze is an engineer. He holds a degree in mechanical engineering, and he's also a member of the SCCA fraternity. He has an MBA from Edinburgh Business School and a Bachelor's of Engineering from Magara University. He has vast experience in infrastructure development, which is picked from several institutions, including UNRWA, Lafarge, and is currently the managing director of Uganda Clays Limited. He has also served on several boards and is currently the chairman of Kampala Quality Schools. He has several interests ranging from reading, evangelism, leadership development, counseling, and farming. He's married to Mrs. Reuben at Tumwebaze, Chirabo. They have 3 sons. Most of you here will remember a young man called Gracious Tubasize. This is his father. So he's a father to us. Let's welcome Mr. Reuben Biaruhanga Tumwebaze to tell us a little bit more about his engineering career. Over to you, Reuben.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Elijah. And it's a joy to see all of us, and especially our sons and daughters, and our friends who have supported us in co-parenting our children, the Vine community. Thank you very much. Like you've heard, I'm Reuben Tumwebaze, and I'm a mechanical engineer. And before I go into what interested me to become an engineer, I don't think I have anything that interested me, but you'll hear that shortly. Honestly, from everything around us, automobiles and microchips, your phones, the buildings around us, the whole environment, really engineers shape the world, including the medical world. When you talk of bioengineering, we shape the world we live in. We change the common perception of what is possible. We interpret what God created and make sure we transform it into what God wants the world to be. So engineering itself is divided into a variety of sub-disciplines that cover an enormous spectrum of industries and materials. But one thing, all forms of engineering, and I think even other professions, but specifically engineering, that we share in common is the innovative mindset. It's taking from one's surroundings and making these surroundings something greater. We are always thinking and creating and interpreting, sometimes destroying and disrupting. So our daughters and sons, if you have an interest and a high aptitude in math, in science, in physics, then most probably engineering is part of your inclination. Engineers use their expertise and technical skills to solve a wide array of problems in a variety of disciplines. Like I told you, when you go to medical world, without engineering, it would be difficult, probably very hard for medical practitioners to do their work. Look at those microscopes, those all that laboratory equipment. It's a game and a manipulation of engineers. So engineers use this expertise, like I said, and I shared some small write-up on different disciplines of engineering. So the question is, what is an engineer then? An engineer is a highly skilled professional who uses math, she uses science and technology to do much of their work. And like I said, in addition to having strong background in science and math, certain soft skills will allow you to be successful. And I'm glad most of these soft skills, our sister talked about them. For example, you'll need to be a good problem solver. you are not going to be a successful engineer if you are not able to question, if you are not able to disrupt the thinking system of people around you. You need to solve problems. It means you must be able to identify problems in a community, then come up with possible solutions to these problems. So really excellent thinking skills, critical thinking skills are what we are talking of, and these will allow you to evaluate each solution to determine which one has the best chance of working. Therefore, engineers must work with different alternatives, talk of feasibility studies, and out of that, you come up with the most feasible in terms of the solution that you're looking for, but also the finances that are required. Are you going to just put a solution that is too expensive, or it has to be appropriate enough? You must also be able to work with teams, because engineers, whereas you work on these systems are interacting with people. Therefore, you need a lot of skills to manage teams. You need social skills, social science skills, communication skills, and in what maybe in some of your career guidance, you had words like emotional intelligence. I've met engineers who really think about their machines, or is a civil engineer, he only thinks about concrete and everything. And at the end of the day, his project will delay. He will not get alternative solutions because he's not able to interact with people very effectively. And like the doctor said, you must be a good listener, you must be a good communicator, a good speaker if you are to survive. And you must be able to understand how people think in the background for you to provide appropriate solutions. So what are the common responsibilities of an engineer? In brief, we design, we develop, we build, we test, and modify and implement complex systems and products. We also analyze problems, we troubleshoot and collaborate with co-workers to find solutions. In the life of an engineer, we conduct research to make engineering decisions. You're not just going to use your studies anyhow without conducting thorough research. We recommend materials that will suit the design and build of any project. We create failure analysis to learn from design mistakes, for example, and many other things. So how do we become engineers? Like we said, you must be good at sciences, especially math and physics for most of the engineering fields, but also other engineering fields like chemical engineering. You need a great deal of chemistry. And you must be gifted, or you must skill yourself around other soft skills like team, like communication skills, project management skills, and all those. So the question is, how did I get interested into this field of engineering? I am born from the remotest part of this country, that is 70 kilometers from the nearest urban center, Kabale district. My home is 70 kilometers away. But I was very much privileged, born from parents who never went to school at all. They got this ambition to take me to one of the best schools in this country. I'm glad I have my OB, Stephen Ineget here. That's Kigezi College Victoria. And in that school, it is almost a sacrilege not to be good at mathematics. If you went to that school and failed math or sciences, they looked at you and we have to manage this person. So this is a school where people get 100s in math, 100 in physics. So without knowing what was going to happen to me, I, as any disciplined child, very timid from the village, the only escape was to concentrate on my books. And God blessed me with that opportunity to understand these sciences. Up to senior 3, I didn't ask myself, what am I going to become? But all my hobbies were going to Magara University to do either medicine or engineering or sciences. So we were acquainted with those words flying around. So when I did additional mathematics, it is mathematics you do in O level, which is more or less like senior 5 of A level. That's high-end math. So I knew that I was going to be an engineer. But what type of engineering? We only understood civil engineering as building buildings and mechanical engineers going under vehicles. So to cut the long story, I ended up in Magara University on mechanical engineering. And up to the time I entered the university, to be honest, I didn't know exactly what mechanical engineering was all about. So I'm very excited that really VINE has chosen to enable our children understand these things early. So yeah, I ended up being a mechanical engineer, a very wonderful course. And in Uganda, by then, I think we are only doing 3 types of engineering. That's mechanical, electrical, and civil. And I think for the purposes of today, we also had surveying. Yes, we have surveyors, we now have many other professions. We have automation engineers. And like the handout I gave, you find other fields that are not even taught here in Uganda. But also we have chemical engineering now in most of the universities around. When you go to Magara, chemical engineering is mixed with industrial chemistry. And all these fields are really very, very important. So what challenges have I encountered in my engineering profession? As a country that is still growing, we have standards well laid out, but the enforcement of these standards continues to be a big challenge. Especially like mechanical engineers, by the time I graduated, we only had few factories around. Now I'm glad there are many, many factories, and most of the mechanical engineers ended up going into these factories, and others changed profession. Today, we are privileged that our country is getting heavily industrialized, and we have a great deal of mechanical engineers heavily employed. The civil engineers have been having a lot of market, and now their markets continue to grow because as a developing country, we have a lot of infrastructure growth that is taking place. And electrical engineers, most of them entered into telecom, but others are in these manufacturing industries. And of course, our power generation is taking many of them. But electrical engineers are getting a new trend with high automation of these factories around. They are changing into what we call automation engineers, people who use a lot of computer programming and engineering work to make sure these machines are automated and they work on a robot system. For outside countries, of course, you'll get other engineering like aerospace engineering. You get, here we also have water engineering. We have trends like mechatronics. These are mechanical and electrical engineering in one person, or electromechanical. And these are heavily liked in manufacturing industries and systems. Yeah, so another challenge we've found in our country here is that because the enforcement of engineering regulations is not so strong, we have many people masquerading as engineers. And you hear them call themselves engineer everywhere. And this have really, really messed up the profession. And it has put the whole profession to a disrepute. But with strengthening of the regulation and many engineers coming on board to challenge the status quo, we see a lot of growth in that area. So those are some of the challenges we encountered. Like Dr. said, we also, at the university, they used to tell us most of these things you are studying are not applicable. And I asked myself, how can people write all these books with all this information and
Reuben, you have 1 minute left.
And you said that things. Hello?
You have 1 minute.
Yes,
left.
I'm concluding. So my approach became different. I said, no, I will make sure I explore all opportunities to use whatever I've studied. And my first time in the manufacturing industry, that was Hima Cement. I asked for a toolbox because I found there a prejudice against engineers that we are not hands-on and practical. For my first 3 years, I refused to be called an engineer, and that helped a lot. I got that practical experience. I got to understand that all subjects that I studied were 100% applicable. And I used these skills to design, showcase myself, and that's how I ended up growing very fast. In a few seconds, I noted that engineering studies alone were not sufficient. So I decided to find out other skills that an engineer needed to thrive and create appropriate solutions. That's how I ended up doing into ACC, Association of Certified Chartered Accountants. I became an accountant. That helped me to understand how to evaluate my engineering decisions to become economical and appropriate for a particular reason that I want. And that again helped my career to grow very fast and to set myself apart as an engineer with a difference. Of course, after that, I added on business studies like MBA, and that has helped me really to do a lot of work. Thank you very much. I will be answering other questions later.
Thank you, Reuben, for that wonderful introduction. Just a reminder that because of limited time, we can't take questions directly, but let's use the chat. If you have a question or comment, kindly type in the chat. The panelists will be able to pick it up, and at the end of this, we'll give them some time to answer those questions. So our next speaker is a lawyer and a banker. Mrs. Mbabazi K. Emejeit is currently an executive director with Diamond Trust Bank, Uganda. Before that, she was head legal and company secretary of Diamond Trust Bank. She's a practicing advocate of the High Court of Uganda. She's a member of the Uganda Law Society, the East African Law Society, and she has specialized in commercial law. She has a master's degree in commercial law from the University of Cape Town in South Africa. She has a Bachelor of Laws degree from Magara University and a diploma in legal practice from the Law Development Center. Mbabazi is a wife, a mother of 4 children. Outside her work, you'll find her swimming or cooking. And she loves to mentor, to counsel, and to help people around her attain their full potential. So let's welcome Mrs. Mbabazi Emejeit to tell us more about her career.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Elijah. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you, everyone. I just want to say you're very privileged to have these career talks. I was also lucky to have them while in my secondary school in Namagunga. I was in secondary school in Namagunga boarding school, and we had a careers day like this where we had, it was a teacher who was coming to talk to us about career guidance, yes. And so it helped us to make decisions. It helped me think about what I wanted to do. So I'll start from there. I like helping people. I have a passion to help people, to see people happy, and I don't like seeing people struggling for many things in life. So it's based on that during my A-level, I decided to do an arts subject because I wanted to help people. I wanted to do social work and social administration because that was my passion. I wanted to go and work for an NGO and help people. That was my passion. So when I finished my A-levels, I had done very well, and I had gotten social work and social administration at Magara. But my father asked me if I wanted to help people, could I think about helping people in different ways and not specifically in social work and social administration. He made me think about helping people even as a lawyer. Can you help? As a lawyer, you're fighting for the rights of people, you're helping people if in any sphere. So when he advised me about that, I started thinking about doing law and seeing if I could help people even as a lawyer. So that was my passion. So first thing was that I wanted to help people. So where would whatever we do at the university should be in that direction of trying to help people. So I enrolled for law. I went and did law at Magara University. Of course, the first instances of the first year, second year, I was like, no, I don't think this is my passion. I don't think, it's just, going and you're just fighting. I said, no. So what he encouraged me to do was attach me to a law firm for an uncle of mine, to start working there during the holidays and seeing what happens in the law firm. So a law firm is an office that has lawyers, and their specialty is doing legal work. So during the holidays when I was on campus, I started working in the law firm, and I was helping out. I was always carrying books, escorting the lawyers to court, just carrying books, doing research. But that opened my eyes to where I wanted to go. So as I continued law school on campus, of course, it had a lot of reading. We had to go to the library. I think the library, we didn't even have law reports, or you couldn't read cases on the internet the way it is now. You had to go to the library. There would only be one book. Elijah, I think you're aware of this. There would only be one book that would have cases on contract. You'd fight for that particular case book to read a particular case. We had discussion groups as well that would help us, but it was a struggle. But together with the teamwork and the friends that you have, it's important to have friends who you're working with and who are helping you get to where you want to, who are same-minded as you, to encourage you, because it is at that point that you can have friends who derail you and take you to do certain things that keep your focus away. So I had friends who would go to, after class, would go to the library together and read together, because we had an agenda. We wanted to do well in law school. So after law school, my fourth year in law school, third year, you start beginning to specialize. You begin to specialize, and I wanted to do human rights, because I said, now I want to do human rights and help people. Human rights, fight for the rights of people. So my dissertation was fighting for the rights of HIV people. Same thing. But when I finished university, I realized I tried to look for work in a human rights organization to do my passion as well, helping people in that area. And it didn't come to pass as I had wanted. So I went back to the law firm that I was working at and started working with them. So in the course of doing that, people would come and then you'd have to advise them. And this is not, by the way, movies. You know how you'd have, I think most of us have watched series. There are several series where there are lawyers and it seems very interesting. You're going to court, you're fighting. It is different when it is now real practice. Someone comes to visit you and they have a problem and they expect a solution from you, or they expect you to guide them. Now, when I started working and I started seeing how I was able to help people in this area, this helped me realize what I wanted. Every day you'd have to advise different people. You're advising on a land transaction. I want to buy a piece of land. I don't know what to do. How do I do it? You advise on that. This one comes, I said, I want to buy things from China. I want to bring them to Ghana. What do I need to do? You're advising on that. Oh, this one, I want to get married, but I don't have money. I don't want to get married in church. I want to get married at the registry. What should I do? So there were different angles that I had to help people and give advice on. So why law? That was where I came to realize it later, that I was able to help people, and in their different spheres, and law, a lawyer is needed in every sphere of influence in Uganda, even worldwide. In a school, you have to sign certain contracts. You have to sign certain things in a school. You have to form a company to start a school. You need a lawyer. As a doctor, before Catherine operates you, before Catherine sees you, you have to sign something. A lawyer has to prepare that. Before you go to Mr. Ineget as an auditor, there has to be some contract, a document. A lawyer has to draft it. An engineer, before an engineer advises you on what to do on your house or anything, there has to be a contract there. So law is so diverse. Every sphere you will always need a lawyer. You'll have a role to play. A lawyer will always be needed there. Even in politics, even in business, any contract you want to get into, a lawyer is always there. And so it also reminded me of a verse in Proverbs 31, verses 8 to 9, which says, speak up for those who can't speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. So law comes in every aspect. Of course, the Bible also talks about lawyers who are liars. I know many of you are thinking that, yes, we know about lawyers, they just tell lies. Some of the jokes bring lawyers as the worst people. Yes, there are some lawyers who go to court and lie. Someone has murdered another, and then they are defending them. So that brings in an aspect of who are you as a person and what is your role? Are you there to just make money, or do you want to help people and fight for their rights? I would want to fight for someone who is a lawyer, who is innocent, and to help them be able to be set free and not to be accused of what they haven't done. So that is why I did law. And it was when I started practicing that I realized I'm fulfilling what I really want, what my passion was. And God kept showing me every step of the way that you're still helping, you're still doing what you want, and you're still within my purposes of helping people, which is what you want. So that's my background of law and how I am in practice. How did I get into banking? An opportunity came in banking and I joined. So lawyers can be in any field. You can be in banking as well. In banking, how can you be a lawyer in banking? In banking, for you to come to a bank to withdraw money from your account, you need a lawyer. You need a lawyer to draft that account opening document for you to open an account. There are terms and conditions that you have to sign. A lawyer has to prepare that and advise. Someone else you want to borrow money from a bank, a lawyer has to prepare the documentation. So that is how I come in the bank, and I advise the bank on any aspect. People are defaulting, you have a loan, you've not paid back your loan. How can I help to recover the money for the bank? I'll have to go back and advise the bank on what they need to do. So in terms of a lawyer in the banking sector, there's a big role that you have to play in that area as well. On some of the skills and strength of a good lawyer, one of them is good communication skills, and you learn them even at school. Being able to take a lead, being able to speak and communicate. That is one of the aspects of a good lawyer. Good communication, because even when you go to court, you're communicating to someone, you're trying to convince people to be able to understand where you're coming from. So, because these judges are human beings, they also understand, they want to understand where you're coming from. So if you're able to communicate well to them, to convince them, they'll be able to understand your side of the story and be able to give justice to you. Other aspects of a good lawyer, you have to have good reading skills, and it comes from school. In your pacework, are you able to read, or do you just write quickly, go to the score sheet and then mark and then go back? Or even after you've answered your pacework, you go through to read to ensure that what you've written is correct, or there are any other mistakes before you go to the score station. You start reading through. Even as a lawyer, you don't just write and immediately give. You need to read and go through what you've written to ensure that there are no mistakes, and you're able to communicate to the lawyer, to the judge, whatever you've put on paper. So good reading skills are important. What setbacks are there? As a lawyer, there are many setbacks. You will not always win a case. You'll not always find someone who understands where you're coming from. And of course, that means that you will fail. Sometimes you'll win, and sometimes you won't. So what happens? You should be able to pick up and move on. You should be able to pick up.
You have 2 minutes.
Yes, you should be able to pick up and move on. So those are the aspects of some of the aspects of a good lawyer. Before, when we were joining university, you'd have to do history, economics, literature, and divinity to go into law school. But now I think anything in the arts field is able to take you to law school, And I think there's a pre-exam that you have to do before you join law school. I don't know if it is still there. There are discussions on whether that is viable, but I think any art subject you're able to do law. So just quickly advise to someone who's pursuing a career in law, read while you're at university. If possible, even when you're at school now and you feel like you want to practice law, ask the school, ask us as parents to see how we can attach you to a law firm, to be able to just see what happens in a law firm, come to court, would be willing even to get some people to attach them even to the bank and see what we do, so that you're able to see the practical aspects of legal work and even in court, to give you a better understanding. There was a question on whether you can study in the UK and practice law in Uganda. Yes, you can study in the UK and be able to practice law in Uganda as long as you go to the Law Development Center. The Law Development Center is where you practice, you get a diploma in legal practice. So once you go through that, you're able to, and you pass that exam, you'll be allowed to practice law in Uganda. But in a whole, as I summarize, law is good. Law is a good field. There are different things that come up every day. I can't come to office and it's the same routine work that I have. No. Today it is one aspect, tomorrow it's another aspect. And so you have to keep being dynamic. You have to read and understand what is happening. What are other countries doing for such a situation? What is being done in this bank? What is being done in practice? So there are different fields. Even when you go to court, there are different things that are being, different cases that come up every day to support your case. So that is what I'd say, but I would encourage anyone who wants to do law. We are available. Come and we'll speak to you and encourage you. But law is a good place to be because you advise people and you'll see your fruits. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Mbabazi, for that enlightening presentation. And it's comforting to know that not all lawyers are liars. We actually have Christian lawyers like Mbabazi. Our next speaker is Mr. Stephen Ineget. Mr. Stephen Ineget is a partner with KPMG East Africa and is also currently the head of KPMG in Rwanda. He's the country leader of KPMG Rwanda. He has over 20 years experience working in KPMG in East Africa. He has mainly covered Uganda, Rwanda, and Burundi. He also had a 2-year stint in the United States of America. He has extensive experience in financial audit, ranging from the energy sector, transport, retail, and financial services. He has supported several clients in implementing the international financial reporting standards, which keep advancing, and he helps clients keep at pace with them. He has also provided tax and advisory services to several clients. He holds a Bachelor of Commerce degree from Magara University and is also a Master of Business Administration graduate from Edinburgh Business School. He is a fellow of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, FCCA, and he has several clients, including banks, airlines, and several other multinationals. He's a member of the ICPAU and the ICPA of Rwanda and of Burundi and ACCA. He's married and he's a father. So let's welcome Mr. Stephen Ineget to tell us about this career spanning many years. Over to you, Stephen.
Thank you, Elijah, and good morning to you all. Personally, very excited to be with you, our children, and I give special thanks to Lorna and the entire admin of VINE for just giving us a chance to speak to our children. Now, in terms of background, before I get into the career, how did I get where I am? Just like Brother Reuben, I went to a rural school during a difficult time. That those days we used to have insurgents in Teso, and I had to lose some years. I remember sitting my PLOE when I had only been to school for about 1 month. As a result of that, I got 16 aggregate. And I remember my headmaster being disappointed and wanting me to repeat because I was meant to get first grade and I'd spoiled that opportunity. I refused. I joined another third world school, Bali High. Why that? It's mainly because our wealth had been stolen by the Karamojong, and my father then could not take me to a good school. But I was so inspired by my mother. And she used to tell me, you can do it no matter where you go. So I went to this third world school. I remember getting my first shoe, I think, when I was in senior 3. That school had never registered a first grade in senior 4. I got a first grade. I was one of the first to get a first grade in that school. So I went briefly to Teso College, and then I was taken to Butobere. So that's how I met Engineer Reuben. And definitely in Butobere, I had to do mathematics. Reuben told you that there you only get 100% in maths, physics, chemistry. So I did mathematics, economics, and geography. I was one of the privileged children who balanced sciences and arts. I did physics very well, chemistry very well, mathematics, and then arts as well, except history. I had just a wrong attitude to history. I thought doesn't add much value to life, so no need to read about the past, which was of course wrong. So now that is, the message is you can always do it. You're privileged to be in a top-end school, Vine International, Christian-based, studying at international level. I didn't have that chance. I didn't have a chance to be dropped to school. I had to walk. But there was one thing that was clear in my mind, my mother's voice. She used to tell me that my son, remember she stopped in P2, and she would speak to me and say, now, my 500 cows have been stolen. You are going to be an answer to the family. Now, let us look at which course should you do. When I look at prisons, they need somebody called an accountant. When I go to police, they need an accountant. When I go to hospital, there is somebody receiving money and in charge of money. It appears everybody needs that person. So what do you need to study in order to become that person? Who is in charge of money wherever you go? She had a limited understanding. She thought by being an accountant, you're in charge of money. So that's how my journey started. So I got then a bias towards a course that would allow me, one, fulfill my mother's dream. Number two, be a solution to what was going to be poverty to our family, because she believed I would get highly paid. And for sure, I'm highly paid, I must admit. I tell you guys, this profession is fulfilling. I can tell you that. And rewarding. I met Mrs. Emejeit, I audit her. So you get, of course, a benefit to know. I know how much is paid. I'm her boss. I express an opinion on Diamond Trust Bank. I audit Bank of Uganda, National Bank of Rwanda. So it's a very fulfilling profession. So what do you need to study to become a professional accountant? You've seen my initials. I'm called CPA Stephen, Certified Public Accountant, Ineget Stephen, Fellow of Chartered Certified Accountants of the UK. Now, accounting is one of those courses that allows you to begin either as an engineer, then you do what we call a professional accounting course, that's a CPA, that is Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, then you become a professional accountant. Now, there is a bias to those who start with economics, mathematics, accounting. It allows you to do Bachelor of Commerce in any of the universities. That does not make you a professional accountant. What makes you a professional accountant is by enrolling for what we call a professional course. That is a Certified Public Accounting course, or Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, or another course called CIMA. Now, that is what makes you a professional accountant and be able then to be a doctor of artificial human beings called companies. I'm a doctor of government. I look at the government financial system and be able to speak to the Minister of Finance and tell him this will not work. I speak to Professor Mutebile. Last week, I just signed the accounts of Bank of Uganda, and we're discussing the status of the economy of Uganda. So as an expert, as a doctor of financial matters, we are then able to advise them on how they should be doing certain matters in the country. So you need to study mathematics, economics. Those are core subjects for you to become a professional accountant. Yes, you could have done law. When you have done a course which does not involve a lot of mathematics and economics, there are more papers that you need to do in order to become a professional accountant. So it's a course that once you have your initial degree, it could be in journalism, it could be human medicine like Dr. Catherine. I invite you to become a professional accountant like Reuben, and you become a holistic doctor in terms of the enrichment accounting provides to humanity. Now, accounting is diverse. There is what we call financial reporting. You're in charge of making sure everything is done professionally to the book, and it's governed by accounting standards. That's one side to it. There is another side of checking whether what has been prepared is correct. And that's why in the olden days, there was God. There is God still today, but when you look at the history of accounting, God was up here, and then there were priests, and there were the common people. Today, you call them Christians, below here. Now, the priests would intercede and speak to God on behalf of the people. But there was a need to check what the priests were doing. That's how the accounting profession was placed above the priests. And that's why accounting is the only course under Earth, under planet Earth, who are allowed to use the word true and fair. So we are authorized by law across the world to be able to assess and use the word true and fair because it's guided by principle of integrity, objectivity, independence. You know, that's how we live. We're supposed to be honest. So when I stand up to speak, it is a given that everything I say is true and fair, and it's in the interest of the public. And that's the responsibility accountants hold. Again, like Brother Reuben spoke, there are few people who misunderstand accounting. They do Bachelor of Commerce or Business Administration, and then they call themselves accountants. Those are not accountants. Those are foundational level of becoming an accountant. So you're not regulated, you're not a member of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants, where I'm a council member with one of our parents at Vine, Brother Constant, who is our president. So you have a professional code of conduct that governs what you do, and you're accountable to that institution. That's what a professional accountant does. So I would like to kind of invite you, our children, that a professional accountant is needed. Dr. Magara needs me when he's doing his medical work. when he's plucking people's teeth, that's not a word he uses. For him, he says when he's treating. I need to account. When he's replacing artificial teeth, I need to know what's the quality. Is he meeting the standards required by the medical? I'm the one to tell everybody that it is true. What he does is true and it is fair. What Reuben does, an MD of Uganda Clays as a mechanical engineer, again, I've got to give that. What Madam Emejeit does, again, I've got to tell the world that what she does is true and fair. So you can see we need each other. I need Dr. Catherine, I need Brother Reuben, I need the lawyer, so we cut across. And this is what we're telling you. Now, you as our children, before I give you a word of advice, there are challenges in life. I went through school as a very child coming from a family that was rich, reduced to nothing. I mentioned that I had to get a first shoe in senior 3. Now, I've gone through that. When I reached senior 6, I lost my best friend. That was my mom. You go through challenges. Today, I'm faced with challenges of corruption. You do work, it's implicating so many people, and they are telling you, Stephen, what can you do? How can you keep this silent?
Stephen, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. So corruption is a big challenge. People masquerading as accountants, doing wrong things, tarnishing the profession is a challenge. There are so many challenges, but you must stick your head out and as guided by the values. And what I would like you to take this morning, as you think through your careers, that follow your interest. As you follow the interest, there is what you're able to do, capability. Sometimes you desire to be this, but you're able to do Y. If you're able to do Y, just to be the best of Y, and then you should become an outstanding professional. It's also important for you to know that there is passion in your heart. There is some special purpose God has put in your heart. What is it? Once you follow that and invest time to relate with the right system, then you should be able to achieve the right thing. So I would say, what are you capable of? Pursue that. Briefly, that's what I can say. Back to you, my brother Elijah.
Thank you, Stephen, for that true and fair presentation from a celebrated accountant, not just in Uganda, but in East Africa and world over. I will have our last presenter, who is not least. This presenter also happens to be, I think the special thing about him is that he's an alumnus of VINE International Christian Academy. So he's one of those who is going ahead of you. Timothy Magara is an architect by profession. He is based in Barcelona in Spain. Timothy holds a master's degree in experiential interior design from LCI Barcelona. He also has a master's degree in advanced architecture from the Institute of Advanced Architecture of Catalonia, also in Barcelona, and holds a bachelor's degree in architectural studies from the University of Cape Town in South Africa. He has held several positions. He was a project manager at Cornerstone Events Limited. He was a junior architect at Dream Architects Limited, an interior designer at External Reference Barcelona, and he's currently the head of interior design at that institution in Barcelona. Timothy is a former student of VINE International Christian Academy, like I've mentioned, and he graduated from VINE in 2010. So let's welcome Timothy to tell us about the world of architecture and design. Over to you, Timothy.
Thank you, Elijah, for that introduction. Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a nice morning. So I have 10 minutes, so I'll try and keep everything within 10 minutes. As many of you know, I was one of the first graduating students at Vine, along with Sam Ogeda. And yeah, my journey has been a very interesting one, a long one. Yeah, I remember those last years at Vine trying to figure out, I think I'll start from there, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, what I wanted to study, and kind of going through that phase of confusion of not knowing whether should I go into the sciences, the arts. I very clearly remember that I enjoyed doing art, and it is the one thing that I could do for hours and hours and hours. And I was good at it as well. I was good at some other subjects in school as well, but really art was the direction I wanted to go. So I actually wanted to take up art as my first course, but just thinking more holistically, I was also interested in architecture. So I think the first thing I'll say is before I made the decision for what I wanted to study, I decided to do some internships. So that's the first thing I would say. If you want to go into one field, it's good to have mentors or people who are currently doing what you'd like to do, and then go and see what it's like in the real world. So I remember I interned with Mrs. Patricia Rutiva. I interned with another guy called Peter, I forget his surname. But I had about 3 internships in Uganda before I remember the one moment I was, it was, I think, my 3rd internship, and I was still not convinced that I wanted to do architecture because I saw one side of it. And I didn't see how I could translate my art skills into sort of doing blueprints and floor plans and, you know, like kind of like the more boring side of it. But I remember there was this one moment with on my 3rd internship where I saw and I connected with my passion, with what I felt inside God had given me as a skill, as a talent, to something that I could picture myself doing for the rest of my life. And it was it was an interior design project. This was somewhere in Bombo Road. And it was actually a refurbishment of a bank on the inside. So I saw where someone got a design or a vision and brought it to reality. And that's why I decided, okay, this is something I want to undertake. And of course, there's that pressure. I imagine you might all be feeling of, okay, if I choose this and then I don't like it, will I have to stick to it? Or do I have the chance to, you know, make to change? Or I saw one of the questions was, should I pick a larger, more general course and then eventually branch out to it? And I think one thing I would like to say is you shouldn't feel that pressured, especially at the stage you are at now. I would say at this stage, follow your heart, follow what interests you, what you feel. There's that thing you do that gives you joy or gives you interest. And I think this is where you should follow. Obviously with committing it to God and asking as well. And also your friends and people around you, your parents, your friends will tell you'll get good feedback. And they'll tell you that they can see what you're interested in. They can see what is something that you enjoy to do. So I started my application to South Africa, to University of Cape Town, and I got in. It was a really happy moment because I was not sure if I would get in. It was very limited acceptance. Now, what was very interesting is when I went, it really threw me off. It's not what I expected because, well, I didn't know what to expect, but it wasn't what I expected when I went. So for the first I would say a year and a half or almost 2 years, I was not enjoying it because I was not connecting to connecting the art and the architecture side. But I think at the 1.5, 2 year point, there's another part that I connected with, which was the philosophy side. Now, I love philosophy. I love psychology. When I saw how architecture, art, and philosophy connected, that's when I really connected with architecture. When you think about space, many times people think about spaces as just, okay, a room or a kitchen, or you do this in the kitchen, you do this in the bathroom, you do this in the garden. But when I realized when I experienced the theory behind space, in the sense that if you think about the house you're living in right now, or the house or the homes you've lived in, all the experiences you've had in those spaces and the memories you've had in those spaces have been dictated by the architect. When you think about, let's say, a birthday party you had when you were a kid, or some family friends came to visit, when you think about your experience of playing outside, coming into the living room, coming into the bedroom, what happened in these spaces, the amount of light that was in the room at that time, when you think about all these things, they've been dictated by an architect. And I saw the power in that, the power in creating experiences for people, and how you can dictate that. And this I also very strongly connected with. So this is when I really got into architecture. So fast forward, I graduated from the University of Cape Town. I came back to Uganda and I worked with Mrs. Rutiba for about 3 years. I think it was about 3 years. And I saw the need to do some further studies, because now when you go from studying to working, this is why it's very important to do an internship or to have some experience before you actually study. There's a difference. There's a difference between theory, study, and then what the real world is. So yes, I came, worked for 3 years. I had some very good experience. I saw what it's like in the real world, dealing with real people, because in whatever profession you take, yes, there's the interaction between you and your profession, but there's also the interaction between you and other people. So one thing I should also say is you must learn people skills. You must learn how to deal with different types of people. You must learn about yourself. There should be a journey where you're also discovering yourself, because this is part of it. And yeah, this was a huge thing that I learned during the working experience. So I was very fortunate enough. There was a specific kind of architecture I wanted to do, which was not the generic, okay, making a floor plan and, you know, designing a house for someone. I wanted to do something different, something innovative, something new, something that would challenge me. So I was fortunate to have the opportunity to come here to Barcelona and undertake a course in advanced architecture. And this course focused on, should I say, parametric design. So basically you design with patterns. And it was also a very completely different challenge. It was not typical architecture. Here it focuses on making things with your hands and very hands-on. And this I really enjoyed as well, because there were so many different new skills and programs I had never ever heard of. And now I was thrown into a whole new world where, okay, I have to learn all these new things. I have to, of course, pass my classes. I have to, and then also, I guess something that's different is here you're interacting with very different people, different backgrounds, different races. And so that experience also pushed me further to learn new things. But then fast forward to right now, I undertook another course which sort of brought the hand-making skills into interior design. So I would say right now that during your 30 years old right now, during your 20s, you can expect, or you could finish early as well, you can expect that you, at least if you're going for the arts side, or architecture, it could be something else in the arts, you are always going to go through seasons of learning, and you never stop learning. One of the big lessons I would say is, which I realized, especially when I started university, is you can learn anything. Anything you want to learn, you can learn on YouTube. There are courses online. It is in your power to learn whatever you want to do. So if you want to follow your passion, whatever course or practice you want to take, even if it's a lawyer or a medical doctor, you can learn anything. All the information is on the internet. So don't feel that you have to, if you don't know something, you now have to take I don't know, I'm not saying don't go to university, but all the information is out there for you. And follow your heart. I'd say this is something you must do, because that will take you through the long nights, the hard times. It will take you through the moments where you're okay, it's very tough, and so you're doubting, did I really pick the right thing? That's where your passion comes in. Yes, I would say a lot you have to commit your heart to God, because this is a decision that will dictate where your path goes. I've been very fortunate enough to experience a lot of things in the time I have experienced so far in the past 10 or 12 years.
Timothy, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. Yes, so follow, I would say follow your heart. There was one question I did see about whether interior design is good to do during COVID. That's a very good question, because interior design requires people to it requires you to meet face-to-face with people, to interact, but I would say do not be restricted by what your idea of interior design is or architecture. It is such a wide scope. I'll give you a small example. During last year, the period of last year, of course, we were all in lockdown and everything, but then I took that time to create my own designs. I took that time to learn some new programs, and there's so much stuff out there that you can look up. So I took the time to design some things that were not necessarily interior design, but for example, I designed a lamp, or you know, like I designed a few lamps, I designed a few things. So yeah, do not limit yourself. The world is your oyster, and always keep learning, always keep learning. For now, I think that is what I'll say.
Thank you, Timothy, for that. Timothy is actually a global citizen, so there's a lot that we can learn from him. Most of the presenters were able to answer the questions that came in prior during their presentations. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to give each of them 2 minutes to make closing remarks and also answer any questions that may have come during the session. And we'll start with Mr. Stephen Ineget. We'll go to Reuben Tumwebaze. We'll have Timothy Magara, Dr. Catherine Sebuguzi, and Mbabazi Emejeit, in that order. However, for the 4 panelists, I want you to, in your closing remarks, if you could just give us a hint of how technology is affecting your profession. I know that most of us studied in the earlier days. This is a new generation. So you could just tell us how you see technology affecting your profession. For Timothy, you're not very old. So I'll just ask you in your closing remarks, you could tell us what are some of the things that have helped you thrive in a global environment. You studied in South Africa, now you're working in Barcelona, you're Ugandan. What are some of the things you can advise a young person who wants to thrive and compete in the new globalized world? So we'll start with Mr. Stephen Ineget.
Thank you. Quickly, in terms of questions, I think there was a question in that you need to do, which course you need to do to become a professional accountant. I responded that, I think, to Teacher Brian and others. You can do either CPA, ACCA, CIMA, any one of those can help you become a professional accountant. Yes, I studied when accounting was reduced to only two things, debit, credit. As of today, when I'm seated at home, technology has significantly influenced the way we do our work. We use artificial intelligence to do all the routine checks. For example, we're using technology to audit a company payroll, a company that has over 1,000 employees, and I'm searching for ghost workers. People steal money through putting wrong names and steal money. So we develop specific identifiers, and using technology, they do that. I no longer need to deploy staff to do that. We do a lot to do with data and analytics using technology. We are now using specific computing applications to carry out work. When we are testing the efficiency of machines that Mr. Reuben is using, I want to look at the productivity levels, or when I'm auditing Bujagali, to look at how much power is being generated. We use technology to tell us, to measure efficiency of those machines and be able to give a true and fair view. So technology is what is driving, and there is actually a current discussion. Accountant of today and of tomorrow are two different individuals. So all accounting professions, including ICPAU, who have introduced a syllabus speaking to technology with a focus to accountant of tomorrow, because we are seeing a complete automated environment. Because if medicine is becoming automated, manufacturing is automated, so how will you be able to audit? So that's how we are investing. Even now when we are recruiting, we are taking a lot of bias to engineers, people who have done computer science, all of those scientific courses are now very, very critical in our recruitment process to help with the technological advancement that's happening in the profession. Otherwise, I'm happy to have been here. I'm a father to 4 kids in Vine, Mordecai, Meshach, Trinity, Trifena, and Vanessa is joining soon. And of course, Grace, Ineget, my wife, who is a mother to the 5. So thank you. I didn't mention that I would be locked out of the home. So it's important to do that.
Thank you, Stephen. Over to you, Reuben.
Wow. It's very exciting listening to all those different professions. And first of all, I want to thank God for this opportunity and to say engineering is a very good profession. It's a very exciting profession, but like all other professions, if you don't involve yourself into it, you'll end up having a paper as a qualified engineer, but not, or a qualified doctor, but very useless to the community. So I want to encourage all those who intend to do these professional courses, like law, like everything, prepare from the start to be dirty within the profession, involve yourself and work, and you'll find a fulfilling encounter with that profession. Secondly, there is no particular profession that is self-sufficient. We are all serving humanity and we need each other. As engineers, we need doctors, we need lawyers, we need accountants, but also these other professions need our services. So it's important to know that God has placed us in these different professions as an opportunity to serve and make a better world and fulfill God's mandate. But also within you, as Reuben, who is an engineer, that engineering profession is also not sufficient, because all professions have gaps, they miss, some of those soft skills, even some particular hard skills. I told you I had to do a professional accounting course to be able to, one, to debate with the Stevens, but also when I develop scenarios and solutions, I don't know how engineers who don't have this side of knowledge do their work. It's very difficult. Because when you have to do cost-benefit analysis to understand, it's very important to know that as you study, acquaint yourself with as many skills as possible. But also, we need serious mentors. I want to encourage all of you to identify mentors. I'm glad I've had many students at Vine that chose me to be their mentor. And I've seen many of them take different courses in the science world because of the discussions we had. And I like that kind of attitude Vine Spirit puts into our children to be able to seek for knowledge. So that's it, really. I'm very excited. And maybe the last point I have to say is what you study at your undergraduate does not necessarily dictate what your career path will be. And it's very important to be open and to keep evolving yourself and revolutionizing yourself to adapt to the changing world environment, but also the environment around you that may dictate you to change. How has technology impacted me and my profession? When I was studying in the 1990s, we were using hands and some small instruments to draw. Today, on a daily basis, I use SolidWorks, I use other softwares to do designs that are more accurate and very quick. Like Stephen said, all our factories now are automated. Currently, I'm doing a lot of automation for Uganda Clays. The last 4 years, I did automation in the way we are handling way bridges at Uganda National Roads Authority. And this removes corruption, it improves speed, the quality of products, and everything. So technology is changing, but the good news is before you realize that technology has changed, you're part of it and enjoying it. Thank you very much. Back to you, Elijah.
Thank you, Reuben. Over to Timothy.
Thank you. Thank you, Elijah. Also just want to say thank you for this opportunity to share with you guys. I remember when I was finishing Vine, I didn't really have this opportunity to have a panel and ask these questions and hear from many people at one time. Yes, so in closing, just touching on what things would assist you in sort of like a global environment to succeed. First and foremost, I would say God, because yeah, at home in Uganda, it's you have a lot of people. You're surrounded by your family, you're surrounded by friends, you're surrounded by, at some point, your parents. And here you're tested in many ways. You're surrounded with different cultures, different backgrounds, different people, different behaviors. And you are tested. Your heart is tested, your values are tested. And so first and foremost, I say, if you have God, no matter where you are, you will succeed, you will thrive. Through the good times, the bad times, you will make it through. And also one thing I was saying, which was mentioned before by the panelists, it says, I forget what it says, your gift will take you before kings. Follow your passion. If you follow your passion, you stick to your craft, you work hard, because no matter who you are, no matter what race you are, no matter your background, hard work will always take you places. So once you follow your passion and couple that with hard work and couple that with your faith, that I say will make you succeed and take you to places you would not even imagine. I'll give a small example. In my graduating year, I think 2019, I had the opportunity to, I didn't really know what happened, but I had the opportunity in one of my internships, which kind of became a job, to work on the Spanish pavilion for the Dubai 2020 Expo, which actually is happening right now. So I was blessed and lucky. Well, I was blessed enough to have the opportunity to design some of the things that went into the Spanish Expo in the Spanish pavilion in the Dubai 2020 Expo, which is happening now. And yeah, I was just, at some point I was sitting there in an office full of Italians and Spanish, and I'm the only Black guy there from Uganda. And I'm like, what am I doing here, really? So I know many of you will have the chance, maybe not now, but maybe at some point, to work internationally, whether in Uganda, whether somewhere in Africa, whether in the US. At some point, for some of you, this will happen, but always remember where you're from, remember your values, remember what got you there. And really, with all these things, no matter what you face, I strongly believe you can succeed, and even way more than you can imagine, way more. Yes, these are my closing remarks.
Thanks, Timothy.
Thank you.
Over to you, Dr. Christine. Dr. Catherine, rather. Sorry, Dr. Catherine Sebuguzi.
No worries. I'm called Christine very many times. I worked under a pastor's wife called Christine, and I was labeled Christine. So I've received a couple of comments in the chat. Thank you, and I've endeavored to respond to those, and I'll send my comments or responses through to admin so they may share them with the medical team or the team that's interested in medicine. Thank you, Vine, for having us, and thank you, our dear students, for the hard work you're doing. I know school is not easy, but God will see you through. I'd like to close with saying medicine is a very, very, very honorable profession. It's the only profession where you get a doctorate without doing a PhD. And I think that's a big bonus. But even as a doctor, when you walk into a room and people call you doctor, there's a respect you carry. And I think as a lady, it's even bigger, the respect you carry as a doctor. It directly touches God's heart. So if you're considering doing medicine, just know you'll be touching God's heart direct. God has made everything through his wisdom. He gives people wisdom on how to do things. But God made man direct. So imagine you when you're doing medicine, you're touching God's very heart. You help people and the money will follow you. Someone mentioned, I think it was Stephen, that they're very well paid. Now with medicine, you don't go into it for money, but over time you'll find when you do a good job, the money will follow you. I've never lacked a job. I've never been turned away from a job interview. I get all the interviews I go for. I may turn it down because of the pay, but I'll get it. So that's medicine. It's complex, it's heavy, but it's possible. You've got to trust God, believe in yourself. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. All. It's hard work, it's commitment, and it's teamwork. If you have a weakness is not inability. You're weak in biology, you're weak in chemistry, it doesn't mean you can't make a good doctor. Find support. Medicine is done in teams. Even as a student, find a team, stick with a good pack of friends, they'll get you through. It's like a race. At times you're passing on the baton, at times you fall, someone lifts you up, you will make it. The best doctors are not the brightest. A good doctor has to have empathy, then the fruits of the Holy Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. Those are the things you've got to pray for and tell God, I want to be a doctor, pack me with these things. How technology is influencing medicine in immense ways. Biomedical engineering, I think recently I was in an ICU and I was amazed how far the world has gone. They've made kidneys, that's the dialysis machine, they've made hearts, all sorts of things are out there in this biomedical field. But also robots actually giving people pills, actually caring for people. There are implants, pacemakers for the heart. And now more recently, there's even artificial intelligence. Recently, I was working with a team. I challenged them to make an AI device that can diagnose malaria so that we don't have to have all these people seated in the lab looking at blood smears, but you can train this device that if a blood film looks like this, then it's malaria. And they're working on it, Johns Hopkins. There is modeling. We get all sorts of different variables and we put them into the computer. For instance, if someone is this tall or this dark or this weight or was born ABCD, has this kind of genetic makeup, model or predict what would happen to them. Will they get hypertension? Or if it's a population and we give all of them the vaccine of COVID, how many people do you have to vaccinate to make sure COVID doesn't come back for a third wave? So all these different things are coming into the field of medicine. And we are finding that even those of us who went ahead of you, we are having to change very quickly and pick up skills. So just as someone else said, you have to consistently reinvent and remodel yourself so that you're not relegated to the museum. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Catherine. Over to you, Mbabazi.
All right, thank you, Elijah. My closing remarks would be, I think they've been mentioned, but most important is that hard work. If you feel you want to go to a certain field, as Timothy has said, get mentors who can work with you and do some internship. I've already communicated through the chat box. Those who want to do law, please get in touch. Jackie, admin Jackie, please, I'm available to see how we can partner with you. It can be in the bank, but it's always good to start in a law firm so that you get the basics. So we can attach them to different law firms, good law firms. As I said earlier, they're Christian lawyers. They're good Christian lawyers who are standing for the right thing. And we can attach you to some of them so that you can work with them and you see how fulfilling it is to be a lawyer. Then hard work and following your passion is very important, as has been communicated earlier. Then in terms of technology, I think for us in the legal profession, especially like in court, technology has helped. Now, those days we're still there. We have judges who still write on papers and write paper after paper after paper, and you get the judgment after maybe a month. But now with technology, we're getting the judgments immediately after the judge has delivered a judgment. You get a judgment immediately. You're able to search for cases on the internet and in the law libraries. You don't have to go and look for one law book in the library to search for a particular case. And so technology, I think, is helping us to be better as lawyers. To advise as well to the young students who are here, your integrity will take you places wherever you go. As long as you remain straightforward and do the right thing, you'll go far. Let me tell you, even if your integrity is questioned from school, from even after school, it will follow you. It will follow you. People will say, that one, you deal with that one. But once you have integrity, it will open doors for you, doors that you don't think would ever have opened. And you continue learning. I'm still learning now. Sorry. So that's my advice. And we're available, Jackie. We're available to see how we can help students who want to do law. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mbabazi. Let's appreciate all our panelists. Council Mbabazi Emejeit, Dr. Catherine Sebuguzi, Mr. Timothy Magara, Mr. Reuben Tumwebaze, and Stephen Ineget. Thank you very much for your time. I know that if you are billing us for each hour you are here, it would be quite a heavy bill, but thanks for giving your time and for sharing your knowledge. I like the note at which Mbabazi ended. I think as a community of parents, we are definitely available. And these are great opportunities that many of us didn't have in our younger days. So I want to applaud the administration of Vine International Christian Academy for this initiative, just to help and ground our students to make the right decisions early. So thank you very much. Thank you for attending. I now want to invite our principal, Mrs. Lona Magara, to just crown this all up with her remarks, and then she will invite Ivy Mayende to lead us in a closing prayer, and then we will be out of here. Over to you, Principal Lona.
This is Principal Lona. Yeah, thank you. I'll make the remarks on behalf of Principal. I'd like to thank our panelists for a very good job. I've been following all through. Thank you for sharing experience. I believe many of the students have, this may be a point of reference for them in the future, that day when this happened. So thank you very, very much. I think one of the things we managed to do is to confuse everyone, because everyone's profession is the best. Yeah. You can only become a doctor, engineer, or a lawyer, maybe a teacher. But there's just so much now that's available. And I think I just want to encourage all the students that many of the things that are, some of the jobs that will be available in future are not yet even there now. So you, you follow your heart, has been mentioned, but do something else. We have a very rich variety in among our parents at Vine. So I'm requesting that all of you, if you have an interest in any area, let your supervisors know. I'd asked this before. I hope it was done then. Let your supervisors know that this is the area I'm interested in. They will pick up those things and pass them on to admin. Even very likely within our parents, we have people who are in that field. So we can arrange for you internships or times when you just go and spend a week. I've done this for a number of people who thought they wanted to be doctors or dentists. And it's always interesting to see what happens when they come to my practice. Some of them went ahead and made the decision. Yes, that's what they want to do. I remember one girl who came wanting to be a doctor. She spent a week with me, and at the end, I asked her mom, so what happened? She said that she now knows she cannot be a doctor. So that is also good because it saves you a lot of wasted time. I've always quoted the example of the fourth-year student in dentistry who knew in fifth year was so convinced they were not going to be a dentist and they wanted to leave. They had spent 5 years, or close to 5 years at the university doing something they knew they were not going to use. And you can waste a lot of your time of your life. So this is a good time to get exposure, not to one, different ones. And that can be a very helpful thing to you. So once again, thank you very much. And we pray for you. This is a very important season of your life. You're choosing the areas you're going to spend a lot of time in. The time in school is very short compared to the rest of your life, but it's very important. If you make the right decisions and get good guidance, you can have a good start in life in terms of work or whatever else you'll do, and that will keep you way ahead. So we thank God. Thank you all for participating. And who was I supposed to invite? Is it Ivy? Ivy, the principal invites you to lead in closing prayer. Thank you.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for gathering us all here today for the career day. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the panelists who came to speak to us about the different careers. And we pray that you may guide us as we choose what career we want to take in life. And we thank you so much that we were able to get an insight on some of the careers which we may want to do. And I pray that you may help us to make the wise decision. And I pray that you may see us through in our schoolwork and throughout the day. In Jesus' name I pray and believe. Amen.
Amen. And may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all, now and forever. Amen. Happy half term, and have a nice weekend.